They were together constantly. They were involved in each other's lives in all kinds of ways. I think that they were brothers in arms.
You spent hours speaking to Jeffrey Epstein about Donald Trump. How would you characterize their relationship?
I think it was probably one of the more meaningful relationships in each of their lives. They were friends for over a decade. They were together constantly. They were involved in each other's lives in all kinds of ways. I think that they were, that they were brothers in arms.
Some people have said that President Trump is panicking. He's been chopping and changing all week his position on this. You've spent time certainly in his first term in office. Is he panicking? Is this out of character?
Well, I think it's out of character that he's been unable to change the subject. The Epstein, his relationship with Epstein has been hiding in plain sight for many years, but he has managed to avoid having to confront it. And suddenly, and I don't think he was prepared for this, and the irony is that this is brought on by his own supporters, suddenly it's front and center and won't go away.
And is that because he leaned into the calls to release the files, the conspiracies about what may or may not be in the files, and what he hoped that he would use the support of those people who are particularly interested in this issue, get into the Oval Office and then change the subject and not have to revisit it?
Well, I think it's perhaps all of those things, but beyond that, I think he is in a corner on this because Jeffrey Epstein is so central to his life. Matter of fact, I think in some way Jeffrey Epstein is the Rosetta Stone of understanding Donald Trump, that these are two guys out of the 80s, two guys who were proud of the fact that they were bad boys, two guys whose central interest in life, and I want to emphasize this, were women, girls, and money.
And so what was going on? Was he playing with fire then? Even, he could have just not talked about these files in the run-up to the last election. He talked about releasing the JFK files, the files relating to Martin Luther King. Was he playing with fire by even siding with those? Because, he put a Bunsen burner under it before the election and has been trying to put it out ever since.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's, Donald Trump is surrounded by conspiracy, and he has always... it has been one of his connections to the MAGA base. I don't think that he thought that this was going to involve Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, Donald Trump is a creature of all kinds of denials. He lives in the reality that he wants to live in, and I don't think that reality, including having to face up to his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
Now, Michael, your sort of biographical worlds have collided tonight. Donald Trump, who you've written several books on, threatening to sue Rupert Murdoch, who you've also written books on. Who's going to win in this battle of the political silverbacks?
Well, yeah, I mean, Donald Trump has also threatened to sue me. He's threatened to sue everyone. Would he sue Rupert Murdoch? I sincerely doubt it.
We're told tonight he's just filed the suit in the last hour or so, just as we were coming on air.
Yeah. Well, there's Donald Trump filing suits, and then there's actually filing suits. So let's wait and see on that. But I assume that the Wall Street Journal had the goods on this. They have seen this letter. This letter makes all the sense in the world. It was written in 2003. That's actually a year before Trump and Epstein fell out. It addresses their interests. As I say, their interests were in women and girls, and this kind of, he refers to their secrets. And I think that they did live a kind of open secret life, which is to say a life that that defied standards of respectability.
Well, obviously, Donald Trump has said that it's a hoax and has denied any suggestion of wrongdoing when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein. Michael Wolff, good to hear from you tonight on Newsnight. In fact, Michael, stay there because we will come back to you. I just want to take a look back at a clip from Newsnight back in June, when this programme spoke to Anushka DeGiorgio, who's an Epstein survivor. And Victoria asked her what she had to say about the calls for the Epstein files to be released.
Anushka, you know there has been pressure on the White House to release more information from the declassified Epstein files. The White House press secretary said last month there was no specific timeline to release the rest. Do you want to see those released or not?
You know, there are a lot of conspiracy theories flying around, and as a survivor myself, and having spoken with some other survivors, I don't feel that it would be helpful for these files to be released to the public. There was some information that was released, and it was promised that the names of the victims or survivors would not be re-released or released for the first time. And yet, once again, my name was published.
OK, let's speak now to a congresswoman who spent this week with Donald Trump, Florida Congresswoman Paulina Luna. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me on.
So, President Trump is clearly under massive pressure this week. You've been with him in the Oval Office. How did you find him?
Well, I'd like to just share that just announced literally moments ago that Attorney General Pam Bondi filed a motion to unseal that grand jury testimony. So as you know, this is the most transparent administration in U.S. history. And I can also tell you that President Trump has delivered on his campaign promises, and he will continue to do that. As you also know, earlier today, the Wall Street Journal was actually sued by President Trump. And I do believe that he's going to be winning in court. You know, they actually were told by the White House that the drawing was not President Trump's, and unfortunately they still chose to go with the narrative. But I'd also like to add that the reporter who wrote that story at the Wall Street Journal was also tied to Fusion GPS, which had ties to Russia collusion. And I'd like to finalize the statement by saying this. Tulsi Gabbard just announced earlier today that they have proof. They released the evidence to the American people directly, stating that the Obama administration actually was a part of putting together the political and intelligence warfare that was waged against President Trump in regards to Russia collusion. So as you are seeing, this is a massively orchestrated attempt to discredit and undermine the president. But he's not one to back down. As you saw, he's a fighter, and we're frankly winning the messaging war on all of this.
I mean, there's an awful lot there. Let's work our way through some of it. You're saying this is all the media and
Yeah,
the Democrats. He's been lashing out at his own people, blaming what he called stupid Republicans. This has split the party. 79% of Americans want the government to release all the documents it has, including 75% of Republicans. He's angered his own side on this, hasn't he?
Well, I can tell you that I was actually one of the only Republicans in the House of Representatives that earlier this year started requesting a full release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. As you know, I'm the chairwoman of the Declassification Task Force on Federal Secrets. And I can also tell you that I was applying pressure on our Attorney General. And what I found is that at the Department of Justice, there was a lot of people that were there that were holdovers and bureaucrats that were not passing information. In February, I was actually made aware of a whistleblower who had alleged that at the FBI, destruction of evidence had occurred pertaining to information ranging from everything allegedly from Russiagate to the Jeffrey Epstein files. And this had actually started under the former deputy director of the FBI, Paul Bates, under Biden's administration. And so, look, the United States is one of the greatest countries in the world, but ultimately it's up to us in Congress, up to the American people to hold our elected officials responsible, and then also to ensure that we're going after public corruption. And you're seeing this happen right now. When President Trump made his statement stating that this was a hoax and that there was ties to essentially the deep state on this, he was not inaccurate in that. And frankly, there were a lot of people that were willing to say that the president was trying to cover up something when in actuality, behind the scenes, we are flushing a lot of this investigation out. And so what I can tell you is that President Trump was in good spirits this week.
But he has been all over the place on this. He said that the Epstein files, he was going to release them, then they were sitting on someone's desk, then that they didn't exist, then this week they were boring. Now he's talking about releasing the some of the court papers, but that's not the whole files, is it?
Well, what I can tell you is you actually conflated his statements with the Attorney General's as well. And so the Attorney General had actually been the one that, in my opinion, got involved in the semantics. But what I can tell you is what I have advised this administration to do is to treat this the way that we treated the John F. Kennedy files and a full transparency to the American people, and to put all the files directly on the National Archives for the American people to go through the evidence on. And I'd also like to share that I do believe that this is going to be an ongoing thing in regards to the declassification of some of these files. As you are seeing, and as it has been pointed out by other victims as well, there's a lot of CSAM, unfortunately, child sexual abuse materials in the Jeffrey Epstein tapes that he was holding, as well as victim information. And so what I've advised the administration, my position has not changed. And I do believe the administration will be releasing information to the American people. I assume everyone in the world will be looking at this because of the people that were involved. But I'd also like to correct the statements of the previous individual that was on your show. It is very well known and also reaffirmed by Ghislaine Maxwell that Donald Trump cut all ties with Jeffrey Epstein after he was in trouble. So any assertion that President Trump continued this relationship with a pedophile is completely wrong.
Well, I just want to share with you, this is a quote that Donald Trump said back in 2002, speaking to New York Magazine. He said that Jeffrey Epstein was a terrific guy, a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. That must make you, at the very least, must make you uncomfortable.
I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that President Trump was likely stating his own opinions, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he was talking about children, if that's what your implication is. And I'd like to go a step further in that, you know, why is it that the BBC and the media is not focusing on people like Bill Clinton that were hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, do you really think that the Biden administration that literally hated Donald Trump's guts was going to sit on information potentially implicating him with a child molester and not release it? I think any implication of that is just pretty egregious.
To be fair, that wasn't an implication that I was making. And Paulina Luna, Congresswoman, thanks so much for joining us on Newsnight tonight. I appreciate your time. Michael Wolff was listening into that. Michael, what do you make of what you've just heard? He's not panicking. Is all fine? He's in good spirits.
Yeah, well, that Congresswoman is just a West Wing puppet, and I think you can tell that they are in full denial mode, pushing out their surrogates to not address any of the issues here, and I think it is an indication of panic. They haven't figured out how to deal with this story. This is a train coming at them, and it's coming at them very quickly at this point.